Okay, let's just get this started. I have a rally car. As you can see, there's a bit of dirt there because this had an extreme outdoor experience and has not been cleaned in a couple of months because I've been too lazy. So let's just put that back in there. Don't know why that keeps on popping out. Either way, I'm looking to change this case, so we might get to that later. I have a much better painted one than my very, very bad job. And I had to cut out the front here to get the bumper to fit, which was actually a smart move. Ooh, you can see there's like quite a bit of damage there. It was actually a bit of a smart move. So what we're doing today is just generally having a bit of a chat, but doing a bit of maintenance because there's a lot of dirt built up all over the place. I just want to see how bad the damage is. The car feels pretty good actually. Shocks are still smooth. Back's still very, very light. I'm actually just charging up the battery now because I want to take this out for a run today if I can. Really need to lengthen these cables as well. Yeah, so over Christmas I went up and saw some family and I was riding it or driving it around in a place that used to be used for a specific type of sand for polishing. In retrospect, that probably wasn't the best place to race this. Actually, the rear shocks are a bit unbalanced. Because, I mean, a polishing sand is going to be very, very fine and get into all those places where you don't want it to be. Okay, so I do need to put some more clearance on the bumper. Might as well do that now. Actually, probably the best way to do this is serrated knife. There we go. And just do it like that rather than with the tweezers, oh, sorry, the side cutters. Now I could just let this wear down over time, but there's really no point. I can do a much cleaner cut now. Still a bit more. Didn't quite cut the bottom. In fact, let's rotate this. So there's been a couple of developments. I mean, as you probably know, I haven't streamed in a while. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of them was I had a pretty major incident with my health that's caused some permanent damage, and it's taken a lot of time to recover from that, so I was actually in hospital for over a week. So I thought that'd give me a bit more time, but turns out I like to work, so managing getting my health back to 100% and also working full-time still turned out to be rather difficult, but I'm managing it somehow. I'm just going to tweak one or two settings just quickly. Ooh, that looks pretty bad. Let's change the focus up. So one of the other nice things I've done is ordered a new camera. So hopefully there should be significantly increased visual quality here. And if I just drop that down a bit, I think I've just got too much lighting. Yeah, that's a bit better. It's a bit more even now. So I upgraded the camera with a really good lens. So now I can do things like, unfortunately it's all manual focus, but that's fine because now I can dial the focus in and get very close to the Tamiya model. So if we can focus, well, maybe I need to, yeah, just pull it back a bit, that's why. So as you can see, we can get really in close now. And I figure for today, this actually might be pretty awesome. So you can see all the dirt build up there in all the cracks and crevices. So I've just got a toothbrush and we will be brushing it and disassembling the chassis at the same time. But so far I'm pretty happy with this camera, especially in low light conditions. It's proving to be very decent. So I'm probably gonna have to give this place a vacuum after this with all the amount of dust I'm getting in here. So when I was driving, afterwards I did of course try and give it a clean, and I actually did have a toothbrush on hand. The real problem was that the ground was heavily saturated with water, and that made getting a lot of the dirt that had built up out very difficult. So now that it's dried, I should have a much better time of just giving this chassis a bit of a clean and seeing how clean I can get it. I'm more interested in just getting all the dirt and dust out of the screws so that I can actually get them undone. So That's where we're going to start. And I mean, when I was racing, like there was a thick 1 or 2 centimeter layer of mud all over this interior. So I really want to see what I can do about sealing up this chassis a bit more. Not that I expect to race in those sorts of conditions again, but I do expect to be driving around in a lot more dry, dusty stuff. So I'm going to work on redoing the, actually let's dial that back out. Working on the fenders a bit to prevent a lot of the dirt from flicking up as I'm driving. There we go. This would be nice if it was automatic, but you know what? I chose manual for a reason. So the camera that I repurposed was originally an autofocus one and had the annoying habit of changing focus at the weirdest times. So let's just get some of the dirt out there. So this is going to be a pretty pretty boring until I get all the dirt and dust out. Because the last thing I want to do is ruin any of the screw heads. I do have upgraded screws on this, but the less damage I do to them, the better. I mean, this is in significantly better condition than I thought, but I just want to see what's happened in terms of the soil being acidic or alkaline, and seeing if that's caused any wear and tear that I need to take care of. And what it's done to things like bearings and where two rotating parts are touching. And I want to have a look in here, which is the motor cover, and see if there's any dirt build up there, and if I have to build a seal around that. In fact, I've got some damage on the fan. I'm not sure how that happened, but I don't even have it plugged in at the moment. I did find that even in hot conditions, or very, very humid conditions, I should say, this stood up very, very well. So I did start to have some engine or ESC overheats, but I'm running a very, very powerful ESC and a very, very powerful motor, so that's just on me, if anything. Stupid things I do in my spare time. Hobbies, basically. So let's take the battery out. So, now that's going to be the wrong size. I haven't matched the screws up, so it's going to be a bit of trial and error till I find what I need. Okay, that seems to be about the right size, but I didn't mind the bottom loading, but now that I've got dirt stuck in it, I really kind of regret it. Would have preferred a top mount, just to prevent the dirt and stuff getting in these screws. So from what I've seen on the forums, you do, especially after some heavy racing, do have to give these a bit of a clean. And I must have spent an hour or two cleaning this, just at the track. Luckily there was some water nearby. It's literally a giant sand pit with water in the middle because it used to be a mine. So, okay, that's looking a bit better. Get in there as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to disassemble these arms and really de-dirt and de-dust them. Although this is so much easier now that it's dried. This is also when we're having very, very bad weather up here in Sydney. Over the Christmas period. Oh, there is a screw behind there. And that just goes to show you how much mud was on it. I might even break out the water and clean off the dirt mask, or the dirt mark. Luckily, funnily enough, the front is a lot cleaner than the rear, which is interesting. Anyway, I should get back on topic because I was trying to get this off because I need to, or I'd like to, charge the second battery. Do I have another? Let's try one of these. It's actually been a while since I've done anything model related, so I don't remember where all my tools are. And I've got like 3 projects that need to be finished, so I've got parts for them all. I just need to start uploading the videos for them. There we go. A nice hyper powerful battery. And I say hyper powerful because there's very, very few batteries you can get that are actually larger capacity than this. So this is a 2S high voltage lipo. I probably should have left that plugged in. It's never a good way to get these out. So it's a Reedies, and it's a 9600 milliamp hour or 9.6 amp hours, which is a pretty crazy battery all up. It basically just allowed me to keep on racing and racing and racing and not worry about things like battery life. Check the condition of that battery later, because I need a special cable to charge that one. Bit of dirt built up in here, which is not bad, but what I didn't really want to. So you can start to see how much dirt I'm getting there. It's actually a lot more worse at my end than you can see on camera. A lot of fine dust. Okay, I'm generally pretty happy with that. Actually, these holes really cluttered up with dirt. I was actually not too impressed about that. If it was fine dust, it would be great, but for mud, it's absolutely horrible. Okay, so we're going to finish cleaning this. Check the screw holes. Yep, they're good. No dirt behind them, which is great. And then we just put our fingers there. A little stone there. So what do we have project-wise? I have some stuff for a rear-wheel drive car, rear-wheel drive Mini Z. So an RM motor mount that I want to use with my rally chassis, because it's one of the few, when you're looking at Mini Zs, most people are familiar with 90, I think it's 93, 100 and 103 millimeter wheelbases. There's actually a fifth wheelbase that not many people know about, which is the 86 millimeter. There's very, very few chassis that are in 86 millimeter, and I've got two of them, and they're both rally chassis. So I want to get them up and running. So I now have the motor mount for that. I just need to select a chassis to use with them. Oh, yeah, I've got a bit of chassis touching a bit, but this is one of the weird things. So this arm here touches the chassis, and we'll just focus in a bit. Touches the chassis unless there's a slight load on there. So a couple of times I've gone to test the steering and felt it binding, and it turns out that it's just because I haven't loaded the chassis properly. Oh, I've got some rust built up there, which is what I feared. So we may actually go and oil everything just to displace any water that might have been caught up. Okay, there's really only so much I can do from this side. I think we're going to remove the wheels and just inspect the damage. Put the blade away so I don't cut myself. This is already caked in dirt. I have to give this an oil as well, unfortunately. Nice, useful little tool here. It adjusts to multiple different wheel nut sizes. Yes, okay, so we do have some rust on these, don't know, on the axles, so nothing too major, but those are CVDs and they're not exactly cheap, so I'm going to take care of that if possible. You can see like the amount of dirt built up on there. These caught dirt like crazy. So I'm not particularly worried about the amount of rust. It just looks like surface rust, but oh, that's interesting. What's that? Why is that black? Oh no, that's fine. Okay, cool. Wheel nuts are in great condition. Okay, and that's coming off as well. Or is it? Oh, that's a bit tighter. So you can probably see a bit of the dirt build up there, or the rust build up. So what we're going to do is, I think we'll start with the wheels. So I'll put the chassis aside for a bit. Make sure I don't back into it later. In fact, these wheel nuts are in excellent condition. I couldn't have asked for more. And we're just going to give these a bit of clean. There's no way I'm going to get them back to pure white, but I just want to make sure that there's no... I can get all the dirt and dust out of them that I possibly can. I did actually wash these down the track, but I didn't remove the wheels, so... So the other thing you've probably seen on the channel is a Dji Fpv Drone. That's been a bit of fun, that's been a nice distraction. The other thing that's prevented me from doing videos, funnily enough, has been the weather. So I've actually got a skylight directly above me at the moment, and the problem with that is when it rains, you basically can't hear anything. So the last couple of weekends, I uploaded some Dji Fpv footage, and that was really, really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. But then it rained every single weekend after that. So I couldn't do the following activities like the normal videos. So I do want to get back into a regular schedule because it's absolutely devastated my viewer numbers, well, the watch numbers, which is interesting. I want to do a separate video on that. I'm not really too bothered by that, as long as people are watching the videos and they're being watched more than the amount of time I put into it. So, but it was interesting to see how quickly, because my channel was starting to rise very, very quickly. If you take 2 weeks off, just how quickly that reverses. Although now that when I uploaded the Dji Fpv video, that also turned everything around really, really quickly as well. So if you go around on YouTube, it says you should try and upload videos daily and everything. And what I found is that advice only applies to the people who are giving advice, because they're competing against each other. In the XV-01Rally space, not a lot of people are uploading videos at the moment. I suspect with RC Kicks doing a build at the moment, that's going to change a bit. But also in the Mini Z space, not a lot of people uploading videos at the moment. And because of that, you don't have to upload nearly as often, I don't think. Only a bit more frequently than everyone else, which is probably like once a month. And YouTube will recommend your content. It's going to be hard to get in there. The other thing I do have is originally I was going to get an MA-05RA, which is a 4-wheel drive M chassis, which is typically used for like the Mini Cooper. It's a very, very small chassis. It's a 1/12 scale that Tamir does. RC Mart has them on sale at the moment in one particular body chassis. For super cheap, $90. Just bring your own transmitter and batteries. I was originally going to get that, and then I decided to go for the Ford Cosworth MF OX1. Either way, the new MF chassis, because there was a great deal on that, and that's also 4-wheel drive and also used as a rally chassis. And I've got a Bath coupe type chassis for it, because I don't want to build it as a 1/10 scale. I want to use the short wheelbase and go for a 1/12 scale. So I do have a second rally car on the way, and it'll be interesting to see how it compares. Now the funny thing is, the XV-01 is a front-mounted motor chassis. They give it some pretty unique handling characteristics. And you remember I was talking earlier about the Mini Z chassis and the rear motor mount. I've been playing some rally games, WRC9, especially with the Porsches. And the Porsches are a rear motor chassis where the motor actually sits behind the rear wheels, giving it a bit of a pendulum-like swing. And I've been racing that a lot in the ice and the snow and absolutely loving it. So the MF chassis also has the motor behind the rear wheels, and it'll be interesting to compare and contrast the handling of the two. I'm actually looking forward to it. So But in terms of RC cars this year, that's almost it. I've got keeping an eye out for a Kuro King from Tiny 4x4 for when that gets released. Because it's got rear, front and rear diff lockers that are remotely operated via a servo channel, which is a bit unique. And everything else I need to get back into 3D printing. So I need to start some more work on the rally truck, but that's just been a time thing. And as I said, at the moment I'm spending more time managing my health than doing anything else. So, okay, this isn't what I really want to get into because the amount of dirt build up. It didn't help that I really screwed up the tyre gluing on this, so there's a lot of glue on the outside of the rims. I do not enjoy tyre gluing. Sometimes it works perfectly, and then other times you stick your hands together. Dangerous stuff, that tyre glue. Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, on the forums I've read that typically after a heavy race you do want to do some maintenance on your chassis. No one really talks about what that maintenance is, but if you've built the chassis yourself, you've got to probably have a rough idea. You're basically disassembling it, trying to get all the dirt and dust out, checking that everything is, nothing's loose, that sort of stuff. Oil anything up that needs oiling, tighten anything that needs tightening, looking for wear and tear. You don't have to go too in depth. Like you definitely, I'm going to be pulling the entire chassis apart, but you probably don't need to go to that extreme on every single run. It's just I was driving in particularly hazardous conditions. As you can see, like the dirt build-up's massive, and we haven't even hit the major places of dirt build-up. This is just surface dirt and dust. Actually, what is the time? It is 3:30, so I'm not going to get a race in today, unfortunately. But there's no reason why I can't tomorrow. Except that I'd have to wake up early. Right, you do really have to use multiple techniques to get all the dirt out of here. It's really crazy stuff. So before these go back on, I'm actually probably going to give them a bit of a wash. In fact, I could probably do that now because I want to start them drying, so I'll be back in one moment. Play the exit music or something. Okay, they're washed. Can you hear me from me? Yeah, you probably can actually. The mic I'm using is pretty sensitive, so it can be like 15-20 meters away and it still picks up audio. So, let's just quickly dry these a bit. I don't want to put them on the dirt. More tissues, because I ran out of paper towel. Which is unlike me because I use it for everything. So these came up pretty well after a bit of a wash. These are hard compound tires as well, I'm just realizing. Specifically I want to clean these centers so that there's nothing that can touch those bits that were rusted already. Everything else is pretty much cosmetic. It's just in there and there that I really care about. Okay, I'd say this is almost done. Give this a bit of clean. I mean, this car handles wonderfully. If you've got a track, and I think that's part of the enjoyment of with these cars, is you need a course. Like I see a lot of videos where, especially from Asia, where they're taking videos of the vehicle and the car's literally just drifting around them. And that's fun and everything, but there's a lot of... it's all the same footage again and again and again. There are some guys in Japan who have these wonderful backyard tracks or local community club tracks that are racing these around. And they're awesome to watch. Some of those guys are pretty fast, but looks like they're also running all stock engines. And I think this vehicle really benefits from a very, very powerful torquey motor. I'm actually running a crawler motor in mine, and it's really, really good for the throttle control because it's got enough power to basically just be whatever speed you want, and doesn't really have to spool up much. Kind of crazy in that regard. And it's also a much faster motor. Not that I use the speed, but there are occasions where it's very, very handy just to break grip normally. Going 100% with these cars is dangerous. And you need to upgrade the shocks before you can even think about doing that. So let's have a look at these. That's good. We're just basically taking a look at the color here. So that's completely red. So this one's slightly, very, very slightly white down the bit here. So well, it's not white, it's actually silver. So indicates a tiny bit of wear. Okay. I don't think any of these need replacing. And the anodization on the inside looks pretty good as well. I'm going to give that a bit of a clean just to be sure. But I don't think that's really going to help anything in all honesty. So let's address the rust on the... oh, actually, it's probably from screwing and unscrewing it. The rust on the... I'm just going to call them the axles. We're not going to remove it. We're just going to make sure it doesn't get any worse. As I said, they're CVDs. They're particularly expensive, so I don't want to replace them. So the more maintenance I can do in the last day long, the better. I mean, I do have to give Tamiya one thing. Even though they don't change much, at least you can, well, I want to say you can get parts for a long time. I actually had a bit of trouble finding parts of the XV-01, so it's not super perfect, but the parts availability is significantly longer than most manufacturers. So I'll definitely give them that. I don't have the right tool, I don't think. There we go. Just noticed that was coming a bit loose. Luckily I've got two of the exact same size so they can tighten each other. Okay, so let's go back to this side. What are we going to do? We're going to get some more... get rid of this, so I can take this off. Actually kind of glad I didn't do the maintenance when I was on my trip, because I severely underestimated how long this would take. I think this is probably going to be a 3-hour rebuild. I don't know if I'll do it all on camera, but I did want to get at least some videos in today. And basically announce my return to streaming videos again. We're going to be doing Mini-Z content as well, but I'm focusing a lot more on rally. As you probably heard me say earlier, I've been playing some rally games and enjoying that a lot. And just getting into the rallying in general. And you've probably seen my GT24 videos, which again follow a similar theme, it's rally. And what I enjoy about rally is the mixed surface racing. And the idea that you have to accommodate for changes in grip and surfaces and that sort of thing. Oh, I forgot how well this chassis is done up. So let's talk about some of the maintenance points that are worth noting. Carbon fiber is sealed with nail polish, clear nail polish, just so if a stone hits it or whatever, it helps prevent it fraying. But I'm interested in what's behind here and how much dirt got into the chain, because you'll see a lot of people mention that that drive line is, or that belt line is sealed. It actually isn't. There are gaps on either side, and as the chassis flexes, you can get dirt and dust in the bottom there. So it's important to pay attention to that. And I wish people would stop saying it's sealed. Oh, the silver lettering doesn't come like that. It's just done with a silver paint marker. Very, very simple to do. Makes it look very, very nice. Just makes the chassis a bit different and stand out a bit more. Okay, I'm going to put those there. There's 2 more screws. So you can get replacement covers on Thingiverse here. And then probably ship those over to Shapeways if you don't have a 3D printer. I will likely be looking for one that's a reverse vent, so that it's open but the vent is pointing backwards, and then have a fan on the back blowing air inwards. The reason is, if you're going forward, the dirt is coming up that way, so you don't want it coming in the vent. This chassis is actually a very, very pleasant chassis. I always have a lot of fun with this chassis. It was a lot of fun to build, and it took a lot of time to research as to what to chuck into it. Eventually I did the recommendations of Turtle's guide on, I think it's RC Crawler. I did make a couple of mistakes and bought some parts I didn't need to along the way. Basically go with the most expensive option to begin with, which is the Tamiya shocks. You can cheap out and get other shocks, but the Tamiya shocks are really the only ones that work without modification. So it's not worth spending the extra money and buying the shocks a couple of times when you can just put the time in, get the Tamir shocks and not have to worry about it. This is all looking pretty good. There's a bit of dirt on the CVD there. Now I haven't taped this down, I've literally got it friction fitted in there, which is now proving to be a very, very, very smart thing to have done. But I've got build up on here, which worries me, because this means I potentially had wet mud in contact with the ESC, or liquids in contact with the ESC, and I haven't really waterproofed it. I may change that. In fact, I probably will. But I might just close the case up. So this is where you probably want to pay some attention, is looking for corrosion or anything like that. And overall, this is actually looking pretty good. I'm not too worried about it. I do remember I remember there being a layer of mud on the top here, but not much actually getting inside, which is always a good sign. And this actually has a sealed lip here, which you could potentially put a rubber gasket in there. I'm very, very tempted to seal all the bottom holes on the chassis now. This area here is really, really complex. It's designed to prevent mud build-up, or dirt build-up, but it doesn't work well in mud. Although I really have to work out what sort of terrain I'm going to be going on. I actually have a lot of grass and some sandy areas. I don't have so much dusty or muddy terrain, but I'm still thinking about building this to a mud spec, just to be on the safe side. Okay. This is actually coming up a lot nicer than I could have hoped for. Okay, so we're going to now clean the top part here, which is a complex mess of wiring. Once again, I've got just stuff friction fitted into this top part, which, considering how much of a beating this chassis took, kind of surprising. Oh, battery's charged. Kind of surprising that everything that I friction fitted just stayed in place. I did find that I had a lot of trouble getting double-sided tape sticking to parts on this chassis. This plastic's ultra smooth, so you may need to rough it up with some sandpaper if you're looking to use the double-sided tape. But as I said, like maybe just friction fit it like I did, or even hot glue it, or even better yet, screw into the plastic. It's pretty easy to modify, especially if you have some hand screwdrivers. So I'll just be back in 1 second when I swap the batteries over. Okay, so that was charging at 10 amps. Okay, looks like we have a dead battery. I'm guessing that mechanical switch was not as mechanical as I thought, so this battery is good. The other one I'm going to have to replace, which is annoying because those are not cheap batteries. But for the moment, I'm not going to worry about that and get back to cleaning this top case. Let's move this out of the way because I've got dirt and dust. So yeah, we've got a bit of rust in here as well. I'm not particularly concerned as these screws don't really do anything except hold this rear fender on. And they're not in contact with any other metal parts, so... In fact, we might even unscrew them just to get better access to everything in here. Okay. Trying to undo as many screws as possible while I'm doing this because they're all different lengths and I don't want to have to pull out the manual to work out which one's which. So just trying to get into the nooks and crannies and get all the dirt out. Okay, that's good. So originally I was going to try and get rid of that discoloration there and just hit it with some water. But honestly, I don't think I really care enough. It's probably less dust build-up than it is just like the sandpaper effect of the terrain I was driving through at the time. Okay, so tighten this up a bit more. And then we'll take a look at the electronics. Oh yeah, it probably is actually dust build-up. So I could make this look clean, but why bother? That's the other good thing about this camera is the low light performance is significantly better. Like you can actually, if I've got a black surface like that, you can actually see the full range of blacks. That's a worthwhile upgrade to that camera. Okay, back to the chassis. So I'm going to take that off. And I think we'll focus on the back half first. So this chassis has some very, very nice features which I'll be able to demonstrate. This entire back section here can actually just pop right off. But there's a couple of steps you have to do to get to that point. So let's do the thing. Open up the battery cover again. So these screws here allow the back, actually it's not even in shot. These screws here allow the back to actually slot, like push off, and then you get access to all the little nooks and crannies in there. So I'm gonna have to order a new battery. That is actually pretty irritating. Okay, so I forgot for the fenders, I just left the normal screws. There we go. And I think I did that because I ran out of screws when I did the first build. And then I replaced everything with hexes. Hexes have proven to be a bit easier to clean in practice. Definitely think it's a worthwhile upgrade. It's kind of funny that they give you these fenders and then they're so bad. Like they don't provide enough coverage. Do that. They should be wider and they should cover more of the wheel arch. It's like almost as if they're an afterthought more than anything else. So many people will just use these as a base to cut up a plastic container and then use the plastic container to make some real fenders. I definitely recommend doing that. I've got no idea why I haven't done that yet. Alright, that's done. So we're going to take the screws I had in here and screw them into the fender so I don't lose them. There we go. And we'll just finger tighten them. Cool. Now we're going to work on that, but I think from memory, I'll do something stupid. One screw, yeah, that's what I feared. I don't want to lose the screws, so let's put that back in there. They don't need to be tight, they just need to be secure. Let's take off this back part. So let's take a closer look to see how much dirt buildup we've got in here. Unfortunately, this back end piece is extraordinarily complex. Don't know why they did that. Okay, so I've got a screw underneath there, which probably has to come from this side once again. There we go. Let's feel it out. What's that on there? Okay. Push up on the bottom. Secure that again. Awesome. Oh, there's down the other end as well. Crazy. Okay, well, once again, we're going to have to take that on and off. This battery panel is going to do that a lot, unfortunately. There we go. I'm not going to seal it up right this minute. Confirm that. Okay, that's good. Now we'll seal it back up. I don't know why that doesn't go from the top. There's some weird things on this chassis. Apart from that, it's generally a pretty decent chassis. I'm not sure how that comes off from memory. Although having a quick inspection of this chain, everything's looking good on that front, which is a good sign. pull that off. Ah, and that just slides. Okay. We need a bit of belt tension here. It's not bad, but could be better. If we have a look in here, you can see some dirt along the bottom, but nothing in the channel itself, which is a good sign. Let's clean off this part because it's got a lot of nooks and crannies that have built up some dirt. So actually, yeah, what else do we have in the pipeline? I've got the MR03 build to finish because I finally got the servo I needed for that. And then as soon as I did, I found out the servos were available from Atomic again and from RC Mart, which was probably more important because I prefer to buy from them. What does that take? That is a... So I wonder if I can get this on camera. There we go. So I can push it down quite easily. It's not bad, you could probably get away with that, but I just prefer it a tiny bit tighter than that. So we just undo the screw here, and push it forward a bit. And you should be able to hear it, it'll have a bit of a twang to it. Oh, it actually goes down, doesn't it? Why is that not? Is it still locked? Yes, it is. So these ball bearings on here actually need some maintenance. Yeah, that's better. You can see why. There's a bit of dirt build up on them, which is what has me a bit concerned. So if we rotate, you can probably see on this bearing here, just some slight discoloration. It's a bit hard. I've got a very coggy motor in here, but yeah, you can probably see that dirt there. So I'll clean that off just once I've tightened that a bit more. You have to make sure you don't over tighten this. Okay, that's better. So that's just literally two bearings pushed together. And if you're smart, you put a spacer on the inside so that when you squeeze that together, the outer side is not touching the outer side of the bearing, doesn't touch that side or that side, and doesn't bind up. So it means you can tighten a lot tighter. Toothbrush. Okay. Pretty bad build up actually. I might actually just fully remove that. See, this is one of the things you can only really learn by pulling the chassis apart in its entirety. Because now it makes me wonder if these bearings are possibly going to rust up. If I'm not careful, I'm going to strip that screw. I'm going to have to leave that as is, I think. And I think we will just get a knife. Trusty Leatherman. These small ones are really good for tasks like this. It is rotating very, very smoothly, so that's a plus. And you don't have to get it all off. You'll probably find that once you've got most of it off, the rest will come off with a toothbrush. And you also don't want to be pressing too hard. I wouldn't be using a file, for example. How long have we been going for? Because I don't want to go for too long today. Almost 50 minutes. The other thing is, when you're dealing with bearings, don't go that way because you're just going to rotate them. Go from side to side on the bearings. Still a bit of discoloration here. Going to try one thing, if I can find it. There it is. I've got way, way, way too much bearing grease, and I don't use it often enough. So while I've got it, I might as well use it to try and displace any water, protect against rust and oxidization, and also help cool everything. Because if you're not using bearing oil, it can get very, very small hot spots. Now I'm not, don't take my word for it. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, definitely go look it up. But bearings get very, very hot, and lubricant can help. The trick isn't just to add ceramic bearings. It's more complex than that. So I'm just going to basically drown these bearings in oil, rotate them, and then do it again. And then I'll be rotating the output and cleaning all the excess oil off, because I don't want to foul or contaminate the belt. Now this is a carbon reinforced belt as well. I went out with all the upgrades I could possibly get, basically for longevity. Okay, so now I've cleaned the outside. I just rotate it to see if anything else comes out. Now, if you do foul that, it's probably not going to be the end of the world, because you're not running power off it through this bearing. The bearing is literally just to tighten everything. But if you can avoid it, you might as well. Before we put everything in, give it a good clean. Really get into that in a minute. Getting my hand in this position is actually pretty difficult. Okay, so that slots in like that. Then we needed you. I think I've actually got the wrong screwdriver for this application, but that's fine. So I'm actually all the way down on this, and that's about the tension I want. But there's no reason why you couldn't put bigger bearings and a bigger spacer there if you needed just that extra bit more tension. Although if you're at that point, you might want to think about changing the belt instead. Belts are cheap and less likely to have issues. Yeah, that's running a lot smoother. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to clean here and remove that. So I think we might try and remove this first. Yeah, let's do that. From memory, it's a screw on the back. No. Does it just pop off? No. It's actually from the bottom, isn't it? Maybe not. Actually, I can probably just drop it out. That's for the arms. That's for the center. It's too large. So we might only get up to cleaning up the back, and I might have to do the rest on another video, but that's fine. Also making sure I group the screws so I know which one's which. Oh, glad I didn't over tighten any of these. Although that was crunchy when it was coming out, which, that's aluminium, that's why. Actually, did I shim everything up? No. I actually think I purposely left things a bit loose so that it could bounce around. Or I was lazy, one of the two. If this was a track car, I'd probably be a bit more concerned about that. On a rally car, it actually helps the chassis last a bit longer. Okay. You know what? I'm actually going to put some screws back because I know how this is going to end otherwise. Clean the dirt out of that one. Oh, crunch. I'm going to have to clean that out. There's a lot of spaces on these parts and they're just going to drop out if I'm not careful. So, because they're a pain to put back in. But because there's pins going through here, I only have to remove this back one. And of course I'm not doing any of this on camera. Let's pop up the light a bit. There we go. Wrong way. So the light is actually failing at this end, now that daylight savings has occurred. Okay, with any luck, I do have to, yeah, actually I do have to undo these, great. It's not going to be fun. Okay, 1, 2. That's why I only do it finger tight. Cool. Let's flip this back over. Okay, so I'm probably going to have to undo that and probably take that out now that I think about it. In fact, those can stay. I only have to take that one out, so that means the battery cover comes off yet again. So if you're doing maintenance, take the battery cover off and just simply remove all the screws underneath there. Actually, we'll take that off because I'm going to make a mistake and throw a screw across the room otherwise. Special screw there. You know, if I was smart, I probably would have read the manual for the XV-01 before I did this, but it's just in a rush to start uploading a video, so I actually do enjoy this quite a bit, even if no one's talking. Oh, a bit of oil build up there. Okay, so now we can work out how do I get this part off. Ah, okay, it's that screw there. So this will take the cover so I can remove the belt, and then we can set aside the chassis and just work on cleaning up the rear end. So if that's should now be coming free. Oh no, I've got to fully remove the screw out of there. I remember this being a pain, absolute pain, so I probably want some tweezers. There we go. So I'll just remove the belt, I think now, and sheet. There we go. So you can see those are the spaces I was referring to. You can see all the dirt build up I've had in the chassis from that one run. Let's use the tweezers for this. Not terribly impressed. On the other one I've got a bit of dirt build up. So I'm just going to give this a very, very quick clean out. There we go. This was just really one of those areas that was very, very difficult to get to originally. Down the side here's got a bit of dirt as well. I don't think there's any single area on this chassis that didn't get a good coverage of mud. And honestly, if I'm going to have to do a full teardown like this, every time I take it out, I wouldn't be racing this, but yeah, I'm definitely not going to race in those or drive around in those conditions again, or only very, very rarely. Okay. Clean these holes here because they were crunching before. Okay, so that actually looks relatively clean now. And this is what I like about this chassis, right, is that entire back end, once you've done it a couple of times, and it's just been because I haven't done it in a long time, like you can drop this in and out very, very quickly. So I have to be, there's some spaces here I have to be very, very wary of. I don't want to lose those, so on there. And these metal parts are completely clogged up. And I'm missing a single ball here. So I'm going to chuck you in there for the moment, so don't forget you while I have a quick look for the black ball. There you are. The balls I'm using here are all the low friction balls as well. So if you're astute, you'll notice that they're a slightly lighter grey or lighter black than the standard ones. Oh yeah, look at that dirt. So I should probably work out how I'm going to disassemble all of this. There we go, that can go there. I do want to get in and have a look at the diff, although this is relatively well sealed. I also need to work out if I need to replace it. The other thing I've done is a wing mod there, and I did that just to help keep out. So these little wings actually came with the diff kit because I'm using an adjustable diff, not a LSD or a liquid filled in one, and it's basically, the reason I did this was to help keep the dirt out. It's very, very tight against the metal parts, and I just thought it would be of benefit. And having a look at this, it looks like it actually has done an admirable job of keeping everything running fairly smoothly. So let's just, I think we'll start with cleaning off all this surface dirt, and then I'll think about disassembling and how I'm going to disassemble everything, because I have to get into here, for example, and check the bearings, and I'm going to have to disassemble the shocks and get all the dirt out of them. Shocks aren't bad. I don't have a lot of love for Tamir shocks. They're a bit complex to build. And I've built Kyosho shocks for the Optima Turbo. And they were very, very pleasant. And I checked them the other day. I haven't driven that car in over a year. And the shocks are still as good as when they were brand new. So the seal and the tolerances on the Kyosho shocks, absolutely impeccable. To the point where I might even consider going with Kyosho shocks on this if I can get them in. I think it's 55mm or 60mm for this. I'd have to go back and check my notes. And I can get clearance around the motor. These are bad. Oh, they're not bad, but I can hear them a bit. And I really need to get some fabric socks over these so that they don't get dust and dirt in them. So it's good to see that a lot of the metal parts here are not rusting. Everything I've got does seem to be anodized, which is good. And I'm using aluminium parts rather than steel, because I live right next to salt water. And although the salt water is not good for aluminium because it pits, the anodization really helps prevent that. It's interesting, I've had bikes in the past where you leave them outside for a bit and then you go to push them forward and you tap the brakes and then every single spoke in the wheel breaks like one after the other. Hey Thomas, yeah, I don't mind. I haven't streamed in a long time, but if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. I figure something like I do this so people get a bit of a benefit out of it. Yeah, so aluminium and salt water, as long as it's anodized or has some protective coating, really, really, really good. Okay, that's about as good as I'm going to get, I think, without starting to disassemble. So I think I want to remove the shocks first. Is that one? No, that's too large. Hands are a bit shaky today, as they're prone to doing these days. Oh wow, that's super tight. There we go. Yeah, it's a good way to finish today. So I'm thinking next weekend is going to be some Mini Z rear-wheel drive action with the shortened 86mm wheelbase and the rally chassis. It's just going to depend how I'm going for time. To reference some stuff I said earlier in the stream, it's like I'm really considering, like I've dropped down to part-time, really might have to consider just quitting my job entirely. Getting very, very, very difficult to get stuff done. Okay, I was on that hole, I have to remember that. I still haven't played with the shock setup on this. I don't know if I want progressive or linear shock compression. Kind of not at that point yet. I'm just more enjoying the chassis. And I'm not really racing against anyone, so there hasn't been a real need to tune to win, so to speak. Actually, can I just pop that off? No, the screw is too large. Okay. More screws. I'm going to have a lot of trouble keeping track of which screw belongs to which. I normally manage to do it somehow. I'm going to remember to do this all on stream as well. It's too easy to pull it close to me. I normally remember which one's which, but very, very easy to forget if I'm not paying attention. So I'm going to leave that in so I don't forget. So we've got a bit of dirt and dust build up, mainly around the bottom here. So normally what you do is you get like a fabric loop and insert it on the inside of the spring there, and then insert it on the bottom of the spring there. And by doing that, it just prevents any dirt getting on the inside. Unfortunately, I don't have any shocks any socks that would fit this shock, so It feels like a Dr. Seuss comic. So let's just remove a bit of dirt here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, that's seized up a bit. And then we'll just rotate the O-ring to remove some of the dirt off the thread itself. I'll clean up the top here. Now I don't think I have to feel the shocks up or recalibrate them, like they're feeling pretty good. Or the dampers, I should say. Screwing this down onto the sand is probably not the smartest idea, but I'm out of ideas for cleaning this, so. And it's doing a pretty remarkable job, actually. The TRD spec shocks are definitely the shocks you want to be going with for this. So I've got the, can't remember the name of the brand, it starts with X. And some people tried using them. But after I bought them, I had a closer look at the forum comments from the same people, and everyone eventually switches over to the Tamir specs. And it just comes down to clearance. Depending on how you run the shocks, you may have binding against the motor cap or the gear cap, opposite where the motor drives everything. And the Tamir shocks don't have the same issue. Okay, so let's... Oh. Hands don't always work how I want them to these days. But I'll tell you what, using video games to try and correct that really works quite well. I've just started playing some fighting games, and not normally my cup of tea, but definitely enjoying that. Nice, interesting challenge. Getting my reactions up a bit. That, and I've been modifying controllers as well to try and make them more like the RC experience. It's kind of crazy how advanced the RC car controllers are to something like the PlayStation 4 DualSense. When I started looking at the inputs and where the dead zones and everything, I just realized how far behind the console controllers are compared to the RC stuff. So I actually need to clean that up a bit. I've been doing things like calibrating it and tweaking the electronics to make them even better. And wow, I didn't really expect it to make that much of a difference, but it's like playing on a completely different controller now. It's definitely a competitive advantage, I can tell you that much. And also been doing some stuff with flick stick and getting that working on consoles, which is part of gyro aiming. And I'm not going to say it's as good as a mouse, but it gets you so very close, and you just wipe the floor with anyone just using the sticks for aiming. So yeah, one of the things I did pick up was a switch, and that's been a very useful little device for me as of late. When I'm stuck in waiting rooms. Some really good games on there. Like WRC9 caught a lot of flack for its visual fidelity. I think I've worked out why that is, and that's because they're rendering too much in the distance at too high a quality, not doing LOD changes well enough. But the core mechanics, it's a solid rally game, so hence why I've been driving so much with the rear mounted cars in the snow, specifically the Porsches, because it's a lot of fun. Which WRC8, which I've also got, it's a lot more difficult to pull that off. Okay. Just because the physics, they really improved that much in WRC9. The problem is that the fidelity of the track, like the bumps and everything, is reduced. It's not nearly as good as the PC version, nor are the graphics, but I managed to get over that pretty quickly. I'm hoping they'll do a release that fixes some of those issues. Oh, that's feeling a lot better. Okay, I'm happy with that. That was those screws. Put that in there so I don't forget. So I think when building and tackling a chassis like this, it's important to have, like, this is definitely not the most coordinated scheme normally. Like, I've got a small box, but I'm a bit limited for space here at the moment. But having a plan and knowing generally which screw is which and where you've put them will definitely help you quite a bit. I'm guessing it's actually probably Friday for most people in the US at the moment. Well, it's probably a bit too early for the US crowd at the moment. Currently over here in Sydney, it is 4:30 on a Saturday, so... And I guess it's Easter. I only remember it was the Easter weekend like a couple of days ago, so... When someone told me I didn't have to come into work on the weekend. Oh, sorry, on the Friday or the Monday. So I'm enjoying the time off, and then I've got the Tuesday off, so it's actually a long weekend for me. Which is nice. Get as much dirt off here as possible. I'll do the twist trick. Oh, yeah, because that's really bound up. So I guess the biggest takeaway is don't drive in mud because you're going to be doing a lot to fix it and get all the dirt out. Now, having a look at this, it doesn't look like there's anything that's really affecting the handling, but I would not want to leave that dirt there long term. And I do have a bit of rust, mainly on the axles, but it looks like it's only surface rust. I'm not sure how I'm going to address that, or if I address that. I'm very tempted to just hit it with some oil, but then again, I don't want the nylock nuts to come off, although it is nylock, so there is that. I could do some tricks with sandpaper, but I really don't want to change the tolerances there. Luckily, the nice thing about the Tamiya CVDs is that you can buy each part independently, so I don't have to replace the entire thing. So that's a win. But given that I'm now at the hour and 16-minute mark, and it's probably going to take me 15-20 minutes to complete the back, I would say there's probably about 3 hours worth of maintenance, and that's mainly because I haven't done it in a while. But that goes to show, if, like, you want to take that into account before going off and driving in crazy conditions, or the wet for that matter. Like, if I had been driving in the rain, I would have hit everything with oil a lot sooner, and probably before I even went out racing. Like, lube up all the bearings, all the rotational surfaces. I'm definitely not trying to be perfect when it comes to the cleaning here. Oh, Kyosho versus Tamir build quality. Now there's an interesting question. So my experience is with the XV-01 and versus the Kyosho Optima Turbo. I really enjoyed building the Kyosho. The instructions were nice and clear. The plastics... It's weird, the plastics on the Tamiya are not bad. The plastics on the Kyosho were exceptional, but they were both good for different reasons. Everything with the Kyosho is threaded in very well, which was kind of nice. So you'd go to thread something in and it goes straight in every single time. The Tamiya's, you have to pay a bit more attention, like in there when you're screwing into it, that you're going in straight, but that's fine. These are also the carbon fiber parts, or the carbon reinforced parts, so there's a lot more friction when you screw into these on the Tamir. And you have to be careful because as you're screwing in, it generates an extreme amount of heat. Like, you'll have your fingers either side there and you'll actually feel your fingers start to heat up. Oh, actually that's... Oh no, it's only because there's a bit of dirt there. So there's that. I found the Tamir instructions to be a bit complex, but comprehensive, and there's a lot of guides online on what Tamir's left out, basically, or things that are just not immediately obvious, where I didn't have that with the Kyosho. The Kyoshos, however, that's all. I went with the belt drive, and some parts of that were a bit tricky. I mean, the simple answer to this is I prefer the Kyosho, but the Tamiya wasn't necessarily bad. The Tamiya was a bit more of a challenge, and for this chassis, this chassis is a bit unique, I was more than willing to put up with. But if I was someone who had never built a chassis before, I'd say go with the Kyosho Optima Turbo or whatever it is, because that was a very good build. And as I said, the shocks on that were exceptional. To this day, the best shocks I've ever got on a 1/10 scale car. In terms of engineering, the screw placement on this is, they've got some screws under the battery bay, which are really, really weird. They could have gone in from the top, and it would have made pulling this off really, really simple. If you go back through the history, you'll actually see I take the battery bay off like 5 or 6 times because I keep on forgetting things. You just don't get that with the Kyosho. What else? Yeah, that's about all I could say. The Kyosho doesn't take the rumble or the tumbles quite as well. I've actually bent one of the metal parts and I need to replace that. That's why I haven't driven it at all. But apart from that, it's been a real, like I abused the hell out of that vehicle and it kept on giving. I need my tweezers. Where did they go? The on-road experience is, well, I mean, they're two different types of things. The Kyosho Optima is a buggy and a very, very old style of buggy, but it's surprisingly responsive. That's what I feared. I've got a whole lot of dirt in the CVD. So, it is silicon. You are in the US. I can only imagine what time it is over there at the moment. I was actually watching the SoCal Rally Runners stuff on the Tamir track the other day by, is that Nihongo? And that definitely, you make me very, very jealous having access to something like that over in California. If it wasn't for how great the healthcare is over here, at least for my condition, I probably would have considered the US a long time ago. Actually, can I pop these out? No, not yet. So I'll just get rid of the surface dirt here. Can I pop that out from the side? Yes, I can. There we go. Oh, okay, not as late as I thought. There's one guy I know, he must be on the West Coast, who streams on Twitch, who normally plays Mario Kart. And I normally use him as a good litmus test as to what time it is. But unfortunately, he's not streaming this weekend for holiday-related reasons. Which is good, because when I watch him, I don't tend to do things like this. So getting back into the streaming thing is definitely something I want to get into the habit of doing again. It's once you put it down and stop doing it, it's very, very hard to take it back up. So, and I've had some particularly bad rain that's just meant there's too much noise here for me to actually be able to record. So, first clear weekend we've had in I think about 4 weeks, which was kind of good because the rain was so bad. I actually had my roof flooding and rain internally. So that's always a very, very stressful thing to happen. Actually, one of the interesting things I found was how few I don't know if it's just YouTube search, but I had to look for XV-01, and there's not a lot of content out there. I don't know if it's just I'm only seeing a fraction of the results, but like I did a search and I've watched every single video that Google returns, to the point where Google says no results found anymore when I keep on searching for more entries. Okay, that's about as clean as I'm going to get it. Now the question is, do I pop these pins out and oil them? And I could, but they're anodized, so they're not likely to rust. So I think we're going to pop these wheels off here and inspect the bearings. I really need to make some bit of a clean area to work with. So Thomas, out of interest, do you race RC or do anything with RC at all? And if so, what's your poison? Oh, there we go. Definitely worth getting the good parts. Lucky, I'm also lucky enough in a position to be able to buy the good parts, so there is that. Is it going to have to come out all the way out? Hopefully not. Let's try it anyway. There we go. Okay, so that's looking pretty clean, which is good. I am using the rubber seal bearings, which should help prevent some ingress of dirt and dust. And we are going to oil this up, which, given that they're rubber sealed, is going to actually be pretty difficult and probably basically useless. But so let's inspect the damage. I've got a bit of rust here, surface rust. Now that the light's failing, it's a bit hard to see, but you'll see a bit of orange there. And then we can see some metal contact here. So, but most notably, there's very little dirt on the inside here, and it's mainly come through this gap here. So I'd say we've probably got these, I'm going to forget the name here. I do struggle with words sometimes. This bit here is pretty safe. Yeah, and look, having a look at that, there's only a minor bit of dirt here. So we're in a pretty good situation there. So it's not as bad as I feared. I really feared that I'd had gotten water in there and I'd see rusted bearings, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. In fact, these bearings look perfect. But as I said, we're going to put some oil on there to just to keep everything good. Oh yeah, obsessing over mini Zs, absolutely crazy. I'll tell you what I'm really happy with though, because I spent a lot of time doing it, is building up the mini Z Reddit channel. Like when I first got on there, I think they only had 150 people. And then I just literally spent the last year on Reddit just promoting the channel and cross-posting and getting everyone aware that it was even a thing. And we just hit 1,500 people the other day. It's just been constant effort. It's to the point now where I don't even have to post much anymore. And there's like a couple of posts every day. And people doing really awesome stuff. I'm kind of happy with how that's turned out. I can just sit back and relax now. I did order an HKD body the other day. It had been on my list to buy, but then I was looking for the XV-01X chassis to build another rally car, and ordered that from RC Mart at the same time. So I'm hoping that'll be here next week. But I've got to get back into doing the custom Mini Z stuff. Because I'm trying to work on a Dakar rally truck, and I put that project down to work on something else, and kind of forgot about it, so I need to go off and revive that. That's not going to come out, I don't think. Okay, we might just do an oil in place then. I really hope it pierces through this this rubber bearing, but yeah, I've got the. Actually, I've got it right here. So I've got the Mini Z four-wheel drive with the. I've got the tank tracks, and I've got another one that's belt-driven. Not belt-driven, brushless. And the brushless one needs some repairs. But I haven't been doing as much crawling. Like I've all the I've got a whole lot of boxes around at the moment that I need to clear off before I can start doing any more Mini Z racing and everything. That's kind of put a damper on it. So I actually swapped to the 1/10 scale stuff for a bit. But I'm starting to really miss the Mini Z stuff. Make sure I don't contaminate everything. Should leave that there. As I said, we'll just do this one in place. And I did pick up a new display case for my Mini Z stuff. So I just have to put it into its final location, and then I'll be doing a video on that. So I've got a video on my collection, but I picked up a DVD case for it. That's a good 2 meters high. And it turns out the Mini Zs are the plastic cases are almost the same dimension as a DVD case, so I should be able to, because I was running out of space. I've actually got more chassis than I show in that video, but I don't have any more room to put them, so it's very, very easy. Once I've got the case in place, I'll be able to have them all on display, as well as the actual, so the bodies and the chassis. But really loving the Mini Z community in general. Pretty awesome. Okay, so that's done. So I need the CVD, and we're going to take some steps to address the issues with this. And the issues are we've got dirt built up all over the place on it. So there's a couple of things I could do here. I could put some lithium grease in here, or I could put some normal grease in here. And I'm very tempted to go with the lithium grease. Just looking out around to see where I put it. Except everything's a bit crunchy. So because of that, what I'm going to do is actually disassemble the CVD. Just so we can get all the dirt out of it. Now I'm using a knife, so don't repeat this. There's got to be better ways to do it than how I'm doing it. Okay. In fact, I'm getting dirt out as I'm doing that, so that's probably part of the problem here. Oh, actually, so this is a normal CVD. So I must have the double jointed CVDs only on the front, which is probably a good thing. Actually, maybe I can just clean the dirt out that way. Okay, that's looking pretty good, so yeah, no, that's going to be a full rebuild. The problem is that there's nothing really protecting this part. And because of that, dirt just gets in. Like, I can't work out how you'd put a rubber seal or something on this to protect it, or a sock, or something like that. Here we go. And then from memory I need a pin. Can I substitute that as a pin? No. How am I going to do that then? Oh no, yes I can. Just have to push the right hole, that's it. Now I had tweezers and I can't actually remember where I put my tweezers down. Oops, nearly lost a screw. So we're going to just be very, very careful here. Push through there, grasp that. Let's go for something a bit finer then. Oh, perfect, okay. Cool, and that pops out. And then I can see some black stuff, which is probably the remnants of the lithium grease I had on there before. So this actually goes a bit further, like that. There we go. That's hollow, as you can see, and then that has a metal pin in it. So there's a lot of metal and metal surface contact here. So I'm going to have to look for my lithium grease just quickly. There we go. And we're going to fill it back up with this stuff because this is brilliant stuff. It actually comes with the XV-01 kit, but I bought several other tubes of it. And I'm really glad I did because I now use it on everything. So you can see all that black stuff. That's actually fouled lithium grease. not the dirt and dust that I've been dealing with removing so far. So I can do one other thing while I remember. That is just to clean out all the dirt from all these little holes, because we don't want that re-entering and screwing everything up. Now I'm probably being very, very pedantic in how I'm going about cleaning everything here, but if you've got the time, and I'm not doing anything this afternoon, it's definitely worth it. Yeah, see, I would with the needle nose pliers, except that there's actually a ridge here, so you can't get to the side of it. You really have to come in from, like, pry underneath one side. And it's also weirdly shaped in that it's hooked on one side. So, thank you, Tamir. If someone could invent something apart other than E-clips, that'd be great. I've also got the Tamir E-clip removal tool, and that is brilliant. But it doesn't work on E-clips of this type. Or I guess this is more of a C-clip. This is a bit too large for it. But on the smaller ones, like on the Mini Z, absolutely perfect. It's like, well, if you have to deal with E-clips on Mini Zs, I definitely recommend picking up the Tamir E-clip removal tool. Definitely a good purchase, that one. Okay, how are we going to do this? I just want to thread that through here because I can see a bit more build up. In fact, you'll find that most of my tools are, I've got a lot of Tamir tools. My tweezers, which I keep on looking for. Did I drop them? No. They're Tamir. And they're the fully metal ones. In fact, I've got like half a dozen, including, where did I put it? Here's something that doesn't seem very useful, but I use all the time, is the mini Tamir hammer. And the handsaw, which I use for modifying chassis almost every time I touch a Mini Z. Here we go. These tweezers, the self-closing ones, which I use especially when I'm doing a lot of soldering, because I'll just clip them onto the wires and then work with them that way. Okay, so we're going to put this into here. Like that. Can force that through like that. Just twist it like that. Not the best job, but hey, whatever. Definitely an improvement from before. And then I normally just do a ring or a donut around the outside. And that's going to squirt out when I put it in. So first thing I need to do is make sure that the holes on this are lined up. Twist that in like that, line that up. Okay, then I apply pressure with one finger and then just rotate it until it slides in. It may take some fiddling. There we go. Even on both sides, yep. Then we clean up. Because this stuff actually does attract dirt, so hide as much of it as possible. And then you find one of the holes that is free. In fact, I'll just thread that onto there. You find the hole that is free and then put the retaining pin in. And then you just go around the outside. There you go. Just work it in. In fact, I would normally do that with tweezers or something, but maybe I can do it with my favorite screwdriver. Nope. I used to have a trick for this, I can't remember what it is. It's definitely been too long. Okay, Okay, that's popped back out, so... Okay. Not liking the fact that I'm hearing a crunching sound, which means I've got dirt in there. But luckily it's on the outside, so I'm not particularly concerned. There we go. So, that's smooth. That's relatively smooth. But that's never going to be at full lock anyway, so that's good. That's done. Now, this pin has got some fouling on it as well. But it's got a coating on it, so it's just not even surface rust, it's just stained. So that's fine. So we now clamp this together. There we go. Push. Put the pin through. Perfect. Actually, the one reason why I wanted to do this video is because, as far as I've been able to tell, no one's really done videos on maintenance of the XV-01 chassis. And I do like to cover topics that people haven't covered before, just to make this hobby a bit more user-friendly. Okay, so we push that down, tighten that up. Perfect. And where's that toothbrush? In fact, it looks like most of the surface rust has actually come off, so maybe that wasn't surface rust so much as just some staining. Which means this car is in exceptionally better condition than I thought. And I think that really would speak to its durability. This vehicle is definitely, well, I was going to say this vehicle is definitely durable, except that I was running it without a chassis on and ended up destroying the front swing arms. And by destroy, I mean I shattered it completely, which is why I've since upgraded to the carbon fiber parts. The only problem is that the carbon fiber parts are very, very difficult to find. But I definitely don't recommend running without a body because it means the body goes directly into critical parts rather than just being absorbed by the body. So that's that done. We're now going to focus on I could do a couple of things. I might focus on cleaning these up first, these metal parts, and I'm going to do that. I need a break from those for a sec. And then once I've done that, I am going to end the stream. So it's probably about another, I want to say 20 minutes. For those of you keeping count and doing any planning around that. I'm just getting very, very tired very, very quickly, which tends to happen with these streams. I don't know if anyone else has ever encountered that, but my endurance is not the best these days. And it does creep up on me very, very quickly. There we go. Make sure I don't lose these low friction balls, which minor upgrade. I definitely think they're worth it because they're so cheap. They just make everything a bit smoother. And at the end of the day, that really helps. Mainly on track, but also a bit if you're doing some off-road stuff as well. Cool. Now, the thing I specifically wanted to address with the metal parts is the threads, because when I was doing and undoing the screws earlier that were retaining everything, I did feel that crunch, which normally indicates that there's sand in there. I feel this is more like a detailing session rather than a whatchamacallit, just a repair session. Very good to see that the new camera's holding up. The fidelity on the black has been really, really good. And the manual focus has been really, really good. And the ability to zoom in, which I don't think you would have seen because I was playing with it at the beginning of the stream, but I've got a lot more control over the camera, which I didn't previously, so very, very happy with that. It's definitely worth the upgrade. I'm not streaming in 4K today, but I do have that option if I ever need to, so Okay, that's looking good. That arm's moving freely, which is good. So let's work on this. So what's today? Today is Saturday. Tomorrow till Monday I'm away. Tuesday afternoon I might be able to do another stream, because I want to get this car out by next weekend and take it for a bash. So yeah, I might plan to do another maintenance session then, probably around the same time. Okay, these bearings are also looking very good. Only minimal amount of dirt here, which is great. I still would like to work out how I can seal these a bit better. But for the moment I'm not particularly worried. Now this one doesn't feel as crunchy. I don't even know if I need to disassemble this one. In fact, I'm not going to. I'm just going to inject it with some ceramic grease and twirl it around. Oops. Cool. Okay, and that's feeling pretty good. And that's going to save me a whole lot of time. So this side definitely doesn't seem as bad, but knowing me, I was probably driving in the one direction the entire time and making one side a lot worse than the other. And that just happens because of unstructured practice. No real clear goals in mind, just bashing around. Which is not bad in any way, but you end up with weird things like, why is one side damaged and the other's perfectly fine? Okay, that's good. Now I want to get the bearings out of this. I wish I had a better way to get bearings out. Actually, for those of you who you do Mini Zs, if you've got the Mini Z toolkit, is this one of them? No. I don't have one handy at the moment because it's in one of the other boxes, but you'll notice that there's a flange here on most of the tools, like the screwdriver and the hex bits. It actually turns out the bearing will slide onto this part and then be blocked by that top part or that outer part there. So you can actually use the screwdriver as a bearing reamer and to help remove bearings as well. Very, very handy trick, that one. Doesn't always work, depending on how you've got to apply forces to the bearing, but it's helped me get some bearings unstuck in the past. In fact, that's in tight, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm just going to oil that up. Now I've got oil all over my hands because that was a very, very smart move. Okay. So we're just using oil here to clear any debris and basically remove any water, potentially remove any water that might build up in the future. Although once again, with this oil, I don't know enough about bearings, but I don't think it's actually leaking past this oil seal. Oh, sorry, this rubber seal. Definitely does feel a lot smoother when I do it though, so there's that. And even if I've just got a whole lot of oil built up in the middle here, I'm just going to call that a win anyway, because that will prevent build-up of water. Okay, cool. That's smoothing out, which is good. So once again, I'm going to call that a win. Now I've actually got to work out what to do with all this dirt and dust. Probably go out of onto my balcony if anything. But I'm more concerned about how do I get this all the way to my balcony without spilling it all over the floor. Clean some of the dirt out. Because I did put that onto a dirty surface, and that's really starting to concern me now. It's looking good. So it's pretty clean, but let's give it a wipe down anyway. No reason not to. Okay. And rotate like that. Twist for just seeing how good everything is. That's great. Oh, my parts are magnetized. Actually, that was one of the interesting things about the carbon fiber, was how after I did it, all my tools were completely magnetized. So I actually have a demagnetizer now. It's actually surprising at how easily screwdrivers and everything become magnetized, and screws. Okay. Oh, completely clean, completely smooth. Okay, so where are we at? I'm going to give this a quick clean for the surface stuff. I could pull this apart and just do a quick dirt check. But as I said, I'm getting a bit tired, so I'm going to probably, I'm just going to clean this off, and then I think we can finish the stream there, and then plan another stream for Tuesday next week where I'll finish this all off. So we'll start with disassembling the rear here. There should only be minimal dirt in there because this is actually pretty well sealed behind rubber bearings. And then we'll be able to move on to removing the front, cleaning up the steering, which a lot of dirt and gunk accumulated in. And then focusing on the main chassis. And I might even do some electronics work because the cables going to the motor are a bit short and I'd like to extend them, as well as get the fan wired up and possibly look at the reverse exhaust for the ESC so I don't have the overheating issues. Although I was racing in exceptionally hot and humid conditions, so thank you Australia heat. Oh, how am I going to get in there? Okay. Yeah, I think for this side, this really has to come off. Very, very tempted to swap that over to a one-way bearing, but I don't have enough experience driving it as is before I make that change. But if I want to get tighter turns or whatever, I do have the option. So, and also overdriving the rear. So it's effectively a rear-wheel drive car until it stops scripping, and then it becomes a front-wheel drive car. I've looked into, so I do a lot of electronic stuff. I've looked into electronically controlled LSDs in the center and at the front and the rear. And I've been studying actual rally cars and how they change the handling dynamically. And I won't be able to do it on this model, but I'm very, very tempted to build a larger scale model that's got a fully electronically controlled drivetrain so that I can vary the, let's get some markings on it, vary the slip across the entire drivetrain depending on speed, angle, all that sort of thing, like a modern rally car essentially. It's going to take a lot of servos and a lot of control software, but it definitely seems like it'll be doable. So that project I'm going to leave till after the rally truck because I'm actually incorporating parts of that into the rally truck. And the rally truck has dynamic suspension as well. So the CPU I choose for that is going to form the basis of the LSD drivetrain throughout the entire chassis. Anyway, thanks for that. I just see someone else just joined. Sorry, but I'm jumping off now because I'm getting a bit tired and my voice is going. I will be back on Tuesday next week around the same time and ending up probably about the same time as well. So I've been going for about 2 hours now. So translate that to your local time zone as appropriate. So in the interim, keep on building and have a good time with some RC. See you all later.